Narragansett Bay has been polluted for a long time. And it pretty much, what we consider really bad pollution started with the Industrial Revolution. So in 1970, Save the Bay started. They predated the Clean Water Act by a couple of years, but there was already a lot of talk about environmental activism. Part of my job is holding the state accountable to uphold the laws, because there's a lot of pressure on our state environmental organizations. You know, business, don't regulate business, don't tell them, you know, we want jobs and all this stuff, but really the environment needs to come first, because it's people's quality of life. And people in Rhode Island associate Narragansett Bay with Rhode Island and with their quality of life. Rhode Island Recycled Metals is egregious in the fact that they have just ignored every environmental law that they're supposed to follow. Them being on the edge of the water made sense for what their original permit entailed. Their original permit was to break, and they call it breaking, but to cut apart an old Russian submarine that was a museum up here in the Providence River that sunk. It wasn't salvageable, so they floated it over to recycled metals. The metal is worth a lot of money, and they had the capacity to cut it apart. They're going to put it on trucks and ship it away. So that necessitated having a seaside site. Well, what they decided to do is, well, let's take in cars too, and we'll junk cars, we'll make more money. And we'll take in all sorts of scrap, we'll junk all sorts of scrap. And they never improved the site. They started crushing cars right on the PCB contaminated soils. They also did not improve any drainage systems on the site. So every time it rains, it goes through these big scrap piles into the mud and flows right into the bay. This continued for about 5 years. And we brought it to their attention very early on that they were doing these illegal activities over there. They haven't gotten their permits on time. Mostly they haven't built the infrastructure to stop the PCBs and the metals from going into the bay. Now, the Providence River is already contaminated. It's already contaminated with metals, likely PCBs, but we can't continue to just keep doing it. I spent way too much time on that case. It shouldn't have taken that much time, but it's a precedent. It brought to light a lot of precedents. It brought to light the fact that our DEM, our Environmental Management Agency, and our state have been laxed in enforcement. I guess the lesson is the Clean Water Act isn't really strong unless there are people fighting for it, because it's a government program, and unless the people support it, it doesn't have good teeth. So it takes organizations like us, and I represent, you know, thousands of supporters, to go and make sure that the state is implementing the Clean Water Act the way they should.